Tonight, we take a look at an interview of a member in the KKK and consider its relationship to modern rhetoric. But first, I want to set the frame here a bit from which to observe. When it comes to the institution of extreme political policy, in other words, an agenda, the man in this interview will fail in achieving what he wants. It is an overt message, and he's dressed like a clown. The only reason this was even aired is because those distributing it know it will backfire upon him. Now, with the implementation of mass media, you can take a different approach, the long game. It's a highly effective method, an agenda implemented over a period of time in a covert manner. I will demonstrate this as it's highly relevant to today. After this, an example, we will move to the interview and discuss the overlaps in discourse. So please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can also check us out on Spotify and other platforms as well. So, when it comes to agenda setting theory, here is an excellent example that has been implemented in modern day. I just want you to think about this. If I want you to do something absolutely horrible, do you think I'm going to walk up to you, point to that finish line that I want you to go through with a banner stating my agenda and say, let's do it? If it's something that's currently socially unacceptable, I'm going to grab your hand, put a pretty smile on my face, and ask you to take a walk with me. That being said, let's apply this method to immigration. First, let's start with the name. Immigrants. That doesn't sound bad, right? They are immigrants. We can't justify harm upon immigrants. So let me tag on illegal immigrants. Excellent. Illegal implies we can enforce something upon them. But we still have this immigrant word, which implies personhood. Immigrants are people. We need to rid that cognitive association. How about alien? Yes, illegal alien. But if breaking our laws, they still are subject to rights under those laws. So let's throw a twist to it. Let me run a campaign with images of these aliens crossing the border, hopping fences, caravans with tons of people crossing the border. Well, now they are being demonstrated as a threat. Not only a threat, an invasion, one from another country. Now we have illegal aliens threatening our U.S. sovereignty, but that's still a bit too meta for the public. Let's make it so it affects you personally. How about a criminal? And how about your job? Most of us have faced some sort of injustice or been victimized and need to earn an income. You can relate. Let's run a campaign highlighting the criminals that exist already in this country and how you might not be able to support your family. Perfect. Criminals pose a relevant, immediate threat, and they must be stopped, and your well-being and your families is in danger. But where to put them? They're being housed in hotels. Criminals don't deserve hotels. Better yet, criminals that are a threat to our U.S. sovereignty. Let's cut the funding, but we still need a place to put them. You know, we do have a place called Guantanamo Bay, or how about internment camps? Those were popular and effective in World War II when under threat from a foreign power, that being Japan. Lastly, let's emphasize the cultural threat to our way of life. What's close to us? Our pets? That's a good one. Good. Let's propagate that they are eating our cats and dogs, just in case. Now, I've walked you 2 steps away from that finish line. I let go your hand, point, and you'll walk across that finish line with ease, fulfilling my agenda. Every want and need. I can justify the housing and deportation of these criminal aliens devoid of humanity, eating cats and dogs who are attacking our U.S. sovereignty We are under threat, and they deserve no rights under our laws as foreign invaders. The above events demonstrate an agenda instituted for over a decade. All are examples that have been tactically employed. You didn't always believe this. You didn't even always use this language. Remember? You have been fed this, and we are what we consume. It's been done before, and it will continue to happen again and again. This is agenda setting theory, specifically the long route. Cognitive associations are extremely powerful tools. You can walk each step to where you want to take someone. It's an amazing thing. So, let's go ahead and start the video, keeping that in mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my humble duty tonight to introduce you to the Grand and Imperial Wizard of the Invisible Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Mr. Bill Wilkinson. Oh, Imperial Wizard, can you tell me, and us, 100 years after your predecessors set the South aflame with the cross burnings, lynchings, and other events, you should be bothering this country still?
To begin with, I believe a slight rebuttal is in order for your opening statements, or the opening statements that was made about the Klan. We are not anti-Catholic. We are not anti-Semitic. We believe in the white race. We believe that at this point in time that white Americans are being treated as second-class citizens, that the federal laws, the civil rights laws, have created a dual system of justice in this country, a set of federal laws that protects the interest of minorities and local and state laws.
But Grandin.
And bam, there it is. What have we been hearing? Just that. Federal civil rights laws. For example, those enacted through the DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and DEIA, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility, which are currently being retracted. For example, specifically the Executive Order 11246 put in place in 1965, specifying non-discriminatory practices and affirmative action in the federal government. And if you don't believe me, please see Trump's executive order titled Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity. It's all there in black and white.
Wizard,
the interest of white people.
If I may interrupt, if I might be so bold as to interrupt the Imperial Wizard, it says on a sheet that you people hand out to the young and the youths of our high schools, it says, if you want to join the Klan, quote, I swear that I am of white, non-Jewish heritage. Are you fed up with special privileges given to blacks? That's a quotation from your own literature.
Absolutely.
Heard that right? Affirmative action, things like that.
Well, now, what do you mean you're not anti-Semitic?
We are a Christian organization. We also don't allow Buddhists or Muslims or atheists in the organization.
When did you take in the Pat Buchanans? When I was a kid in Dubuque, Iowa, the Ku Klux Klan, which was then fairly powerful in Indiana, about 1922 or 3, somewhere in there, you were anti-Catholic.
The Klan has had different views from time to time on lesser issues. Mm-hmm. The one issue we've never changed on is that of segregation. We believe that God has commanded us to separate ourselves from other races. In fact, that's not a unique stand. Billy Graham, just a few years ago, himself segregated his crusade audiences. He preached segregation. The Southern Baptist and the National Baptist, one was black, one was white. Mm-hmm.
Billy Graham back then, I just want to say on the side note, huge in the current cultural movement that we have today. I recommend an excellent book. I believe it's John Wayne and Jesus, something like that. But basically it describes how the modern right has built this cultural archetype of what it means to be a man and employed it in order to retain votes and power within the public.
practice and preach
All right, let me
segregation.
ask you something.
So we didn't invent segregation. We
All right,
just
let me ask you
still
about-
believe in it.
Let me ask you about something, and you did correct it, let me say, before the show started, something I was unaware of. But there are a number of Klan organizations, and I gather it is not yours, who march in tandem, arm in arm, with members of the American Nazi Party. Now, the Nazis were responsible for the murder, not simply of Jews in Germany, but American pilots, American soldiers. They're guilty of all manner of horrid atrocities. They have on their, I guess, on their record some 250,000 American dead. Now, why would any patriotic American, or one who calls himself a patriotic American, be anywhere near the swastika, the insignia of Hitler's Germany?
Well, as you conceded before the show, I did clear up that point. The Klan, the Invisible Empire, which I head, detests Nazis as much as we do communists. But I'd like to make one thing clear, that there's too much hype today about the Germans and the Nazis. Let's not forget that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and they led to death marches in Bataan. I don't believe that we should condemn all of the Germans for something that happened in Germany 40 years ago. And I do condemn what Hitler did to any.
Why would any
anyone.
patriot, someone who calls himself a patriot, and a Klan's groups with which I guess you're associated with members, if not the leadership, why would they march with people who march under the swastika?
We don't.
You don't. Why do your colleagues do that?
I believe, to make it clear at first, we're the only national Klan organization left. There have been those that have come and gone.
No, he says he don't, but I think you know the reality of it.
It's sort of like the political parties, the Democrats, Republicans, American independents. They come and they go. They splinter and they regroup and rejoin. Right now, we are the major unquestioned Klan organization in America. There's some people that we have expelled from our organization that will start other branches. And in their anxiety to get membership and support, they will join with anyone, including Nazis.
This is not your organization, doesn't believe that. But I believe a quote by you I read in a book on the Klan today. You were denouncing the quote, I think it was Jew-controlled media. Have you used that term?
I may have used that term.
It's a direct quote.
I may have used that term some years ago.
Well, what do you mean by that?
But as well, I don't mean by that anything at this point in time. I believe that a lot of Jews are prominent in the media, but I believe that a lot of Baptists and a lot of Methodists and a lot of other people are.
Why would you use the term Jew-controlled media? I mean, you don't run around saying the Baptist-controlled media is keeping us off the air.
I no longer use that term. This has been a number of years ago that I would have made that comment, and I'm not apologizing for what I might have said at that time.
All right, let's talk about blacks.
All right.
Why?
Wait a minute. I want to go. My brother came back from the airborne in Vietnam, and he told me, and that of the bodies that he took out as a medical officer, he said, 50% of those guys were black kids. Served in the United States and Vietnam. This was it was a crack frontline unit, and these were American blacks who died in higher numbers for their country in Southeast Asia in that war than did white Americans, as a matter of fact, in the Vietnam War. Now, how can you be against a race which contains people who are out there fighting for their country just as much as white Christian Protestant Americans are?
That's something else that needs to be cleared up, Pat. We're not against the.
Interesting how he separates the white Christian, right, from the quote-unquote blacks. He doesn't include the thoughts of Christianity to be part of that population. Interesting how he segregated that.
Race. We're not against. We believe in free enterprise for this country. We believe that everyone should have the same rights.
Well, Mr.
So there we go. Free enterprise, right? Capitalism. We're not going to institute any regulations, things like that. Hear it?
It says right here, wait a minute, Mr. Wizard. Let me interrupt you for a minute, Mr. Wizard. It says right here, you believe in the final solution, which is black repatriation to Africa. Now,
Abraham Lincoln, but now look, I'm not going to be cut off in the middle.
No, but I'm not going to be shut off either. You're running around on a bed sheet. I don't have the bed sheet. But I just want to tell you, I want to ask you this question. Can you imagine this country repatriating all the black Americans that Pat just spoke about to Africa?
No.
I mean, what kind of nonsense
No,
is
I can't.
that? Well, what are you saying it for then?
I'm not saying it.
Well, it says right here.
No, that's your paper. That's not my paper.
That's your paper. I took the quote and wrote it on this blue
That's
type.
not my paper. Now, to get back to it, now just a minute. I answered your question. Now, I want to finish what I was saying. We feel that affirmative action is discriminating against white people, and there is no question about it. Two wrongs don't make a right. Because black people were hurt and discriminated against in the past does not justify the discrimination against white people now. And we're asking.
So there we go, right? Reverse discrimination, everybody same rights. How about that term merit? Very similar.
Turn into that.
Look, I'm against reverse discrimination. I'm
Okay,
against racial
good.
quotas. I'm against affirmative action as it's practiced. But you said, when I introduced you, I didn't say that your organization was. I said, historically, to most Americans, you're anti-Catholic and anti-Semitic and racist. In other words, anti-black. You said,
Okay.
we're not anti-Catholic.
Right.
We're not anti-Semitic. You didn't deny the racist thing.
Well, it depends on your definition of racist.
What-
I'm a
what-
segregationist, okay? I believe that God
Language, a powerful thing, right? We're not racist. We're just pro-segregation. It's different, right?
commanded me not to mix with other races.
How far
For that
would
reason, I want to have schools where I can send my children to a white school. I want to be able to go to my white neighborhoods, to white businesses,
All right,
for those things. So if that terms
can
me as
do
a
that.
racist, then I'm a racist.
Wait a minute, you can do that, but you can't have tax exemptions in your all-white school. And if
Well,
it's a public school, now black kids whose parents' taxes pay for that school, they got a right to go to that neighborhood school. Now, if you want to
We're going to return to this comment about schools. And to give you an idea where I'm going with it, what's one common thing that we always hear on the right? Charter schools. It's your choice. Something to think about. We'll discuss it in a minute.
white school, all-white academy, you can do that right now. You just don't get a tax exemption for it. So what's your complaint?
You say you can do that. Now maybe I can, maybe you can, but what about the poor people that don't have the money to send their children to private schools? They can't. They're being deprived the right to practice their religion because they don't have the money to send them to a private school. There's
Cultural threat. That's a big one.
no reason why in this great land of ours we couldn't have a three-tiered school system, a black school and a white school and an integrated school, and give everyone their choice. We would have much less dissension, we would have much less racial problems in the schools, and if those people that are seeking to integrate the races in this country really were seeking to do the best for both races, they would adopt this system and let integration proceed gradually.
What do you think our founding fathers meant when they said "we, the people of the United States"?
Well, I won't get into that debate, but
Well, I know, but you're sitting here in your bed sheet telling us all that the only thing you're for, you're against.
You're really
Let's see.
upset about my bed sheet,
Oh
aren't
yeah,
you?
I think if I were you, I would be so ashamed of myself. I mean, I can't imagine walking around in that silly costume, telling people to be against blacks and against Jews.
Have you ever seen the Pope and the Cardinals in their costumes?
Yeah, but they're religious and they're for something, and you're just nothing but against something, and you're against the very spirit of this country.
I believe in the same God.
You're
that the
against
Pope
the
does.
thing.
No, we're not.
You're against the thing that makes this country a unity and that makes this country great. And I think you're a disgrace.
You know nothing
Mad props to that guy.
about what I believe and what I
I just
stand
heard
for.
what you believed.
And you think
Now
that's
you tell
wrong?
me,
I believe in God. Is that wrong?
do you deny that you said this? This is the literature you're handing out to schools, to school children in America? I just quoted this from your own pamphlet. Are you fed up, it says here, with blacks following you home, trying to beat you up?
That's
Do you
right.
deny that you said that?
No, I don't. And let me tell you, that happens more times in America than what you can shake a stick at. Blacks.
Blacks try to follow you home and beat you up.
Criminals, right? What about the idea that was propagated in the past of the quote-unquote super predator? We've heard this. It's being done now with immigrants, and it's a very common theme to paint this other as a criminal.
I mean,
We've had
really.
more racial
You're
problems
a damn
and muggings.
disgrace to the country.
No,
Oh,
Tom.
yes, you are.
I have a strong belief.
And you know
In
what?
fact-
You people
in
were
fact-
beaten. I don't know what we're doing in 1982 talking to you.
Well, that's your problem, Tom. But let me tell you one.
I don't know what we're doing talking about this in 2025.
I'm not beaten, the Klan is not beaten, and the white race is not beaten. No more than the Democrats is beating or the Republicans is beaten. They're all fighting for the things that they believe in, and we believe in something.
All right, what
and
do you
we're
believe in?
earnestly, through the law,
well, let's get
Now, you tell me what you were
Trying to
against.
achieve
What do
it.
you believe in?
what we believe in.
What are you for?
We believe in God, we believe in the United States of America, and we believe that God has commanded us to separate ourselves from other races. Not because we hate the other races or because we feel that we're better or worse, but
gonna have
because
to
we
take a
feel it's
break.
God's commandment. And if you criticize that and our religion, then
Religious justification, that's another one.
criticizing the Christianity for the last 2,000 years.
All right.
And you heard that. Criticizing religion, that is a big one. and that also ties into cultural preservation. Okay, so the differences in the messaging is important to note because these changes occur over time. You have this explicit rather than coded language. You have policy goals. These are often framed as immigration rather than explicitly stating race. Now, I want to get back to the charter school thing. So, remember what I was talking about when he made the comment about education, and then the common theme that comes up today regarding charter schools. And I didn't really necessarily think that much of it, but I did look into it. And I found this article, and there's more than one. This is from UCLA, so it's a good source of information. I'm just going to read this. It's titled, and it's an academic article published, Segregated Choices, Magnet and Charter Schools. Now, when they use magnet, that is another term for public schools, okay? This is very recent as well, which is good. This was published April 11th, 2024. This analysis describes levels of diversity in a comparable subset of schools to enable policy relevant comparisons between charter and magnet schools, public schools. We examined schools in districts that had at least 5 charter schools and 5 magnet schools in any year since 2000. This selection includes most of the 100 largest school districts since both types of schools developed mostly in large urban districts. This sample is especially relevant to choice policies because it allows comparisons in the same districts where both types of school choice have been tried at a significant level. This study describes the level of segregation in recent decades in large districts which had a significant presence of schools of both types. Now, it's good that they chose these large districts to demonstrate this, right? Obviously, if you have a charter school and a primarily white population, it's going to show that. But if you go to these larger school districts, which are more diverse, then you got a good sample to pull from. Executive summary. Abstract. Comparing charter and magnet schools is important yet complex. Different cities have different demographics and legal and educational histories. Some have a significant presence of only one of the two types, among other differences. This analysis describes levels of diversity in a comparable subset of schools to enable policy-relevant comparisons between charter and magnet schools. We examined schools in districts that had at least 5 charter types of schools developed mostly in large urban districts. Again, important. This sample is especially relevant to choice policies because it allows comparisons in the same districts where both types of school choice have been tried at a significant level. This study describes the level of segregation in recent decades in large districts which had a significant presence of schools of both types. The new data on school segregation produced for this report supports the following major findings. Charter schools grew rapidly in the last 20 years, with enrollment eventually surpassing magnet schools by more than 1 million students in recent years. Charter school enrollment grew especially fast, up approximately 900% since 2001. In 2021, magnet schools were less segregated than comparable charter schools along multiple measures. The average black student in a magnet school was in a school that was 15% white compared to charter schools where the average black student was in a school that was only 8% white. Over the last 20 years, Latino to white exposure increased in magnets and decreased in charter schools. The charter sector had a higher proportion of intensely segregated schools than the magnet sector, and the gap between the two sectors increased over time. The proportion of intensely segregated charter schools with less than 10% white students increased from 45% to 59% from 2000 to 2021. A different trend was observed for magnets. The share of magnets that were intensely segregated was nearly the same in 2000 and 2021, 34% and 36%. In the school districts where both forms of choice were tried, magnets have done better than charters at modestly integrating students. An obvious explanation for this is that a basic mission of magnets, especially initially, was to address racial isolation. Policymakers interested in gaining the benefits of integration through choice might look closely at magnet schools. Nonetheless, magnet schools are not the only or even the best ways to produce substantial integration. The kinds of integration plans that increased integration substantially in the 1960s and 1970s did not primarily involve magnets. The higher segregation in charter schools observed in this analysis, coupled with other studies with similar findings, suggests that reforming charter schools, if not advancing alternatives like magnet schools or something even more powerful, is needed to address segregation and its well-documented harms. Very, very important and a very interesting finding. Now, I'm not necessarily implying that there is this outright and, covert push by pushing these charter schools, but it is an example of what people would call systemic racism. A system not necessarily meant to be racist with good intentions that still has an effect that supports it. This is a good example of what people discuss when it comes to systemic racism. Now, getting back to this guy, I want to make a comment just about his general appearance and getting back to the messaging in itself. This type of person delivering this message, and this is why I said earlier that those who distributed this, CNN in this case, the reason why they did it, I would say, and why they allowed it, is because any person that's going to sit on stage wearing that hat, that suit with some badges, a little blue, horrible color coordination, no one is going to listen to, right? He looks like a clown. You compare that to someone who's standing up at a podium in a very nice suit, jacket, and tie. That grants something else. It portrays a different image. It portrays credibility and authority. This does not. It's really important to consider who is delivering the message and why they could be chosen, because it matters. It really matters on how much that message will be accepted. It is very dependent upon who is delivering it, right? It's very important. But I'm going to get more into that in another night. So, again, I want to address these cognitive associations and these changes to our language because they make a dramatic difference. And it is extremely relevant today. And you can see this. And I can demonstrate it. If you take a look at my video about rebranding racism, that is an excellent example with its institution of it. For example, with this term preference and merit. And if you really want to take a look, if you don't want to watch the video, well, you can just go and read it in black and white because it's a presidential action titled Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity. And I suggest taking a very close look at the use of the terms preference and merit, specifically preference, even more. So, I hope that everyone possibly got something out of this. If it challenges your beliefs, even better. For those who may agree with it, please share it with someone whose beliefs it may challenge. it's important that we question our beliefs from time to time and take them off the hanger, because we definitely get used to them. So thank you for watching tonight. I do hope that this brings some thoughtful considerations on how agendas are pushed over time in the media, and you can see its relevance to today. And as the man said, I don't know what we are doing talking about this in 1982, and I don't know what we're doing talking about it in 2025. So, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You can check us out on Spotify and other platforms, and you can visit www.tospeakonline.com for more content as well. For example, articles. Have a great night. Thank you for joining.